Hello, everybody. We're going to be doing the final part of your um, project. Uh, just a bit of a review. Um, so the sculptors Jean-Claude and Christo, um, they don't really make new things, but rather they change the way we see things that already exist, right? By hiding it. And we're just going to reference again the earlier artist Marcel Duchamp because he was the one that pioneered or introduced the idea of ready-made sculptures, which kind of is where Jean-Claude and Christo's sculptures are derived from, come from. And he was saying that the main role of the artist in the future, um, because the world is already full of meaningful objects, is not necessarily to make something new, but to change the way people see things that already exist, which is, again, what Christo is really interested in doing. So, for this final part of the project, you're not going to create something new, but again, you're going to help yourself and help us see things that we just don't really notice anymore because they're there all the time and we just don't look. Like trees, for instance. Here's a short video. I just thought it'd be interesting to kind of show you. It's another class in, I think it's in Japan somewhere actually, and they're wrapping ready-made objects. In this case, they're quite large actually. This is a playground structure, and you can kind of see most kids just wouldn't even look at a playground structure, but when you actually wrap it like that, it actually ended up looking like an elephant with the long slide, looking like the trunk. It's really interesting. Um, Here they're wrapping an automobile, and just gonna let them finish here. And you can see it actually looks kind of interesting now. And here's one last one of wrapping a playground structure. And again, these are things that we just don't really look at, actually. We just kind of climb on and run around on and slide down on and jump from. We really don't really look at it. We don't really think about it. But it's actually a really nice form to it. It almost looks like some kind of a creature. Okay, so for your final project, there's going to be 3 steps to this, and all 3 steps are going to be assessed. There's going to be 3 marks, and I'm just showing you the example that I had showed you earlier on. So the first part that's going to be assessed is your ability to see and identify beautiful forms. So again, it's a hair dryer, but I mean, it's actually got a really nice shape to it. It's got a really nice form to it. It's rounded and it's curved. And hopefully you can kind of explain why it's a nice form. And the second part is your ability to arrange that ready-made object and use light and to create shadows in such a way to kind of show the form, right? And not just take a photo from on top and make it look flat like the picture on top. And then the last part, which we'll do later, won't get to it today, is you're going to produce a drawing, and you've already done one of these, but you really didn't introduce the idea of still life drawing. So there's life drawing or still life drawing. Still life meaning it doesn't move; it's an object that will capture that image that you made using the light and the shadow. Okay, so hopefully you can make something look 3-dimensional on a 2-dimensional surface. Okay. Okay, so for part 1, you're going to be using your eyes your artist's eyes like Duchamp. And you're gonna want to find a ready-made object around your home. Before we start, I have 6 objects here, and the question I would have is which 3 common objects, an iron, a ball, a juice container, this is a toy that my son had, it's missing a few cubes actually, an etch-a-sketch, a mini etch-a-sketch, and a light. Which of these 6, which 3 of these 6, in your opinion, have a beautiful form to it? So I'm just gonna pause, and then you can have a moment and we can discuss, okay? Okay. So you might have chosen any number of these 5. I would say all of them are actually, they actually can be quite beautiful. And again, except for the ball, really, because if you were to wrap the ball, it would still look like a ball. It just wouldn't have the emoji face on it. Whereas the iron, if you were to wrap it and you remove all the details, you would start to see this nice curved shape to it. Almost looks like a sail of a boat, actually. And then you would see this nice void that the handle creates. So yeah, hiding the details actually, it makes you kind of see the nice lines, the nice curves, the nice shapes, and that's kind of what you're training your eye to do. And hopefully we can, you know, hopefully you can do that with your eyes. The juice container here, same idea. If you take a look at it, you just don't really think about it. You just, it's to hold juice. What's the big deal? But if you look at it, it's actually got a really, like the handle that you hold, the neck of the bottle, I guess, that you use to hold the container to pour it. It's actually got this really nice kind of cutout and curve to it. And then it kind of just gradually kind of merges into this almost rectangular like bottom. It's this really weird but nice kind of fusion of 2 shapes. Really organic and really kind of regular. And then this shape on the bottom is just bizarre, actually. You know, in hindsight, I probably would have not included this one here because it's really not that common, but you know, I actually thought it had a really nice shape, so I think that's okay. The Etch-a-Sketch, it's, I mean, you might say it's just a rectangular prism, and you're right. But when you add these 2 little the knobs that you turn to draw, it actually looks really nice. I mean, I don't know, it's really simple, but it's actually really nice. And then this last thing, it's like it's almost like a sphere that's kind of cut in half, a hemisphere, I guess that you would call it. And it's nice rounded shape. You don't normally see shapes like that, or at least until you look. Okay, so again, the idea is to train your eyes to look. This exercise, at least. All right. Okay, so continuing back to part 1, what we're gonna do now, and if you didn't notice, by the way, this is what that R mutt sculpture sort of looks like if you attach it to the wall. They've actually done it the wrong way, I just realized. This part is supposed to be attached to the wall, but it kind of gives you an idea of how it might be used. I think it's supposed to be a joke about a joke, actually, the way they hung it up. So in this case, you're going to explore your home, and you want to look at the objects you normally see, but you don't really look at, like a hair dryer, like a pair of scissors. Now, obviously, don't choose a hair dryer, don't choose a pair of scissors, and don't choose any of the things that I've shown you here, because I want you to look for something that, you know, you haven't noticed before that has a really nice form to it, okay? And you want to take your time doing this. You want to pick it up if you can. Well, obviously you can because you're going to bring it back unless it's sitting on your desk already. You're going to want to turn it around so you can see it from different angles, and that way you can inspect it. You're going to want to maybe turn it on its side to see if it looks more interesting, and you know, lay it down. and you really, really want to look at its form, and you really want to not look at its details. So it's almost like you have to look at something and imagine that it's wrapped, right? In your mind, you're taking away all those details, and you're looking only at the shapes and the lines and the forms of it, the three-dimensional form of it, which is it's a different skill than you're normally used to using. So we're really using our eyes, and it's almost like you're gonna use your eyes, and you want to look for an object that is really like a sculpture that's waiting to be discovered. It's kind of like that expression, a diamond in the rough, right? So you want to find something, and it's almost like a sculpture in waiting. Once you've made your choice, whatever it happens to be, you're going to bring it back to your work area. And just something for you to remember and consider. If it's too big, right? Obviously it's hard to bring, but it's also really hard to wrap. And same thing with something that's too small. So some of the kids in the other class had chosen something like an eraser. Try to find something a bit bigger than that. I would say something at least the size of your palm is easy to wrap and easy to create a shadow. But I mean, if you have to find something small or have to find something big, I'm not gonna say no. Just make sure it's, okay. And it's just, I know it's kind of a funny image. I think it's photoshopped actually. Safety reminder: if you wouldn't normally bring such an item to school for whatever reason, don't use it. Right. So I'm not saying no to things in the kitchen, but what I'm saying is use your common sense. Don't bring anything dangerous, sharp knives that you're not supposed to touch to begin with. Don't bring things like, those cleaning agent, cleaning products, those bottles, spray bottles that have cleaning products in it. Don't bring a bottle of bleach, for instance, chemicals, right? Don't do that kind of stuff. So, stuff that you wouldn't bring to school, stuff that is very fragile and gonna easily break. Don't bring that. Don't use that. And if you're not really sure and you're kind of in your mind thinking, I don't know if I should bring this, or I wonder if this is okay, just don't use it, right? Find something else instead. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna do part 1 now, and go and take 15 to 20 minutes to explore your home and find a suitable ready-made object. And when you return, you're going to take a normal picture of it just on top, just so we can clearly see what it is, and submit it so that I can mark it. And in the submission, you're going to indicate, you're going to tell us why you think it's a beautiful form. And it doesn't have to be long. And I'll show you the example, and that way I'll know you've completed part 1, and then we can move to part 2. Okay, so take 15 to 20 minutes. See you in a bit. Okay, so you're all back. Now we're going to move to part 2, and with that object that you have submitted, we're going to arrange the object sorry, we're going to wrap the object first, actually, like I wrapped here. And so for part 2, we're going to break it up into 2 parts, 2A and 2B. And then we'll get to part 3 the next class. You're going to wrap your ready-made object in such a way that others can see the beautiful form that you saw, right? So to an untrained eye, let's say to whoever's at home with you, brother, sister, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, whomever, you're going to want to wrap it in such a way so that they can see what you were able to see, without you telling them, oh, look at those lines and curves, right? You by wrapping it, you're going to help them see the way you see. So you might have to get a bit creative with what materials you use to cover, depending on what size you have object, or also what materials are available at home, right? So I'm not going to say like last time use this and this and this, because some of the kids kind of said I don't have this and I don't have that. Find something to cover it with. So I'm going to let you get creative with that. And when you wrap, tight usually works best to show the surface and form, right? If it's too loose, it just ends up looking like a bag of fabric, which doesn't really show the shape and form that well, and the lines that well. You might need several pieces of covering for larger objects, or you might need several pieces depending on what the object is like. It might be easier to wrap it in several goes using smaller pieces rather than one big piece because it kind of bunches up. It's a bit harder to do sometimes, okay? And it's okay to reveal some of the details too. So like in this case, the leg of the chair, it's actually really nice. And it's part of the back of the chair, and it's kind of nice to see that the simple versus the complex sometimes. Okay, so you're now going to take 15 to 20 minutes again, and you're going to go wrap your ready-made object. And again, get creative with your materials that you're going to wrap with. When you return, take a picture of it and submit it to indicate to your teacher that you've completed this part 2A. We're not going to mark the wrapping, but we're going to be marking 2B. Okay, so we'll see you in a bit. Okay, last part. Now you might not finish this today. It might take you a bit more time. So this is where we're going to be, this is the part that we're going to be assessing 2B. And you're going to want to create a photograph. And the photograph is going to help us see what you see, right? So that first image that I showed you, the hairdryer, right? It's okay. You can't really see the form that well. It doesn't really look sculptural. But you're going to set it and light it and photograph it in such a way that it starts to look more sculptural, right? So there's a whole skill to that. So again, you might need to get a bit creative with this, and or you might even need to wait till it gets dark. So that's why I'm saying you might not be able to do it now. You're gonna find a darkened part of your home. So it might be the washroom, it might be the basement, it might be your own room with the curtains closed, and the lights, ceiling lights turned off. Using a single light source, so not the ceiling light, not the sun. Using a single light source. And by the way, when we have a source of light that's like this, we call this like a task lamp, right? It's very focused, small area. That's what you want to use, a focused light. Using a single light source, you're going to arrange your wrapped object in such a way that the light creates shadows, and that brings out its beautiful form. So you can kind of see where they've done that, right? You might need to get creative again with where you do this. So in the previous case, they did it on top of a counter. Here they're doing it on the floor. And what type of light source you use. I mean, maybe the only thing you can find that's even close to what we're needing is like one of those night lights. Fine, use that. You might have a task lamp. Okay, use that too. The night lamp actually will work quite well, just because it's directional, meaning it's pointing in sideways. Be sure to use a plain surface to photograph against. Black and white filters are also helpful too. So if you want to use the black and white filter in your camera, or your cell phone to kind of take a black and white picture, that actually helps get rid of some of the details too. Okay. Oops. So yeah, we're gonna give you time now to go and do that, and so you want to light it, and you want to photograph your object, and when you return, you want to submit it to be marked. So take your time to do this. You might not be able to finish this now, but you can finish it before the next class, and that would be fine, because the next class we're going to be using to do the still life drawing. Okay. So I'm just going to leave this here in case you need to see it again, and that way you can actually I'm going to leave it here. Okay, so go off and do that, and we'll see you in a bit.